So after about a week of delaying it, I finally come to round to it. Let's talk about the Rise of Skywalker teaser trailer, episode 9, the final chapter in the Skywalker saga. It's been a rough day, been a rough week, honestly, but that's a different matter. So anyways, yeah. This was your standard Star Wars epic trailer going on. Like, you have like a lot of clues of what could be happening. Like, okay, so Last Jedi was basically, let's destroy the past because the past is the past, except not really, because you're not focusing on the core detail of what made the past so bad. You're just saying a vague statement, in my opinion. So yeah, then we see Rey holding Anakin's lightsaber. Sad. I was actually hoping for a new lightsaber and a new color, anything. But no, it's time we bring that back because we can't have anything different, because that's a horrible factor for Disney Star Wars. So then we hear Luke's voiceover say, "We have passed on all we know. 1,000 generations live in you now. But this is your fight." To which I reply is, no. You did not pass on a thing. You passed on how the Jedi are dogmatic. There is no 1,000 generations in her, and this was never her fight to begin with. You forced her. You along with the rest of the old Jedi Order forced this to happen because the mere idea of being wrong is offensive in horrible ways. So yeah. So then we see this TIE fighter coming in. It looks to be like Kylo Ren's TIE silencer. But then Rey is running and running as it gets closer and closer. And then she does this big spin that's clearly from the prequel era. And looks like she's going to slice the ship in half. But it cuts to showing basically everything else. Showing this weird unidentified ship racing towards a city at night. And a lot of people pointed out from images that it kind of looks like the ship from the Force Awakens visions that Rey was having, which would be interesting, but I don't think that's it, because they said that it was destroyed, unless they're going to retcon it like it's been rumored. Oh, and we see Kylo Ren leading the First Order and killing people. And yeah. So, let's see. Oh man, Kylo Ren is currently fighting, and he's just mowing down people. And then we see someone repair the helmet of Kylo Ren. It can't be really Kylo Ren doing it. It looks like someone else. It could be a technician guy repairing the helmet for him, because, you know, he's too busy leading the First Order to victory or something. Yeah, it could be like an alien, because they looked very very alien-like, very furry-like. And then we see Rey, and then we see Poe Dameron and Finn, and then we see a new character with BB-8, which I thought was stupid, because why does the droid sidekick need a droid sidekick? Like, could it have just been BB-8 interacting off with R2-D2, because that would have been fun? Like, I know the actor passed away who played R2-D2, but yeah, I kind of was disappointed by that. I was just like, why do we have this new character out of nowhere that I have no concern whatsoever for, and it's just there for clearly comic relief. And this droid is called D.O. Yeah. And now... Now we get the return of everyone's favorite Baron Governor of Cloud City, Lando Calrissian, and Chewbacca flying around in the Millennium Falcon in the cockpit. And and all throughout this, I was like thinking, like, okay, so what miserable story is Lando gonna have? Is he gonna be secretly a drug dealer because his life went downhill after his robot droid love interest died? That I'm still against storytelling wise, because it just came right the F out of nowhere, according to the writer, because they have to push an agenda, even though it was really SJW-like. So yeah, I'm not moving on from that. I don't. So then we cut back to the desert world. A speeder cell finds itself pursuing not just a speeder on the ground, but what appears to be a new kind of first order stormtrooper with looking like a clone jetpack and Imperial jump troopers. And then we see C-3PO panicking as always. And the speeder is piloted by Poe and Finn, and yeah, like I said, C-3PO is panicking. And then there's another battle going on at sunset in the lower atmosphere of a planet, and there's a clear A-Wing getting blown out of the bits in front of the First Order Star Destroyer. And then we cut to this to a very familiar shot. We see Leia's hand caressing the old medallion, the old medals that Luke and Han and Chewbacca got, but took it back, but gave it away to somebody. And yeah, there was like I said, Carrie Fisher was supposed to be in this movie. This was supposed to be Leia's story apparently, and a lot of the material that was used for Leia's storyline in Rise of the Skywalker was shot from deleted scenes shot in The Force Awakens, but it never was used. So really, what the medal was clearly going to do was rather more reminiscent of the past. This is more like now mourning after the death of after Kylo Ren murdered him. And then we see Rey and Leia hugging and making everyone cry because of how depressing the reality of this is. And Luke decides to add more tragic to it by saying, "We'll always be with you." Why do you have to make us cry? Why? There was no need for you to make us cry. And then we see Rey, BB-8, Finn, Poe, C-3PO, Chewbacca, no R2-D2 for some reason. And what they're at is what seems to be a completely different planet, and what they are looking across is the remains of the second Death Star. And yeah, a lot of people were confused like that. Like, is that a destroyed mountain or was that the Death Star? But from the details of screenshots that came out, yep, it's the remains of the second Death Star. And now, I'm pretty sure people are going to wonder, wait, how does that work? Why is the Death Star there and not on Endor? Well, one, they don't want to bring back the Ewoks, likely. And plus, there are probably none left because, Kylo Ren had to get that helmet from them. Unless Luke took it back with him after he burned it. So, yeah. And plus, that explosion the Death Stars made, you could easily interpret that, yeah, it probably threw everything all across the galaxy, if you wanted to, all across the star system at best. Now, the question is, what could they be looking for? It was originally planned to go inside the Death Star and go underwater to look for the map, but now it's like, why do we need this now? Well, we don't know. But then Luke says this, no one's ever really gone. And then we get to the thing that makes this video the most interesting. We hear the laughter of the late Emperor Palpatine. And then it cuts to black and it goes showing the Star Wars Episode 9 title, The Rise of Skywalker. And it was confirmed that Ian McDiarmid, the guy who played Palpatine in all of the movies, yep, he's in the movie. He was never shown in film on set, so it was surprising that wasn't leaked. So this shocked everybody to hear this, which would have been an interesting plot twist in the movie. But the question is now, like, they say that Palpatine is indeed returning. And when I look at that, I'm like, I'm kind of mixed about this. It's not the idea of Palpatine returning that is mixed. It's more like, one, they did this before, and even Rian Johnson acknowledged that, yes, we did this before with Legends, Dark Empire. We all know that one. Like, that's why Luke didn't want, why Ryan Johnson was against making a cloned Luke that was evil because they already did that in Legends. So now it's like, we need to, we killed Snoke because that was stupid and that we had no mystery solving on that, even though we clearly could solve it in one way that could have been interesting, and I even talked about that in the video, but we can't solve it now. We need to panic. So yeah. Now, this is where, here's the thing. The whole Dark Empire storyline, yeah, that was George Lucas's call, as much as people still say that he didn't care about Legends. You see, Dark Empire was originally going to have someone dress up as Vader to keep the spirit of the Empire alive. George Lucas shot that idea down and says, hey, look, you can bring back the Emperor, you could do that, and they were like, okay. So clearly there was something going on that George Lucas had involvement with, and Palpatine coming back was George Lucas's indirect call. So, yeah. So, that leads to several questions. Either A, this is a holocron that Palpatine left behind and it keeps his conscience, or B, it's going to be a wrath spirit like Dark Nihilus or former Sith ghosts that were established in Legends. More Legends material taken from for the new canon because coming up with original ideas is terrible now. Or, and this is the most bonkers idea that I could come up with, the nuts ending, that is not the original Palpatine. I'm serious. That might not be the original Palpatine. Because the world between worlds is that key. Like I've said, that could be the key. Like they brought in the world between worlds, J.J. Abrams directing, especially given the circumstances of what he did with Star Trek, that could be a different Palpatine. Reason why I say this is because, really think of this. You have several status quos of canons. You got the infinite universes, which are 3 separate different universes in of itself. You got the Legends timeline, and you got the Disney timeline. So, my idea was that initially with Snoke was maybe Snoke is from the Legends timeline. He's a completely different new character who found the world between worlds on a planet that was probably not called Lothal, escaped when there was a time when there was no more Sith running around and he was nearly killed in battle, found the world between worlds, altered history, became a paradox because there were several hints that suggested this, like how he says that there's always a light with the darkness and there's always one rise must meet the other, and that always led to that question like, wait. That doesn't make sense because where's your equal then? Like, you have to have an equal. It can't be Luke, he cut himself off. Rey and Kylo Ren, okay. So where's your equal? And that supported this idea that maybe he's a walking paradox that's not supposed to be there, but because he's a walking paradox, he's not affected by the rules of the Force. And now, this leads to my theory that, okay, there's still a way to tie Snoke in with Palpatine, because that was hinted a lot in the books and comics. Maybe Snoke did do his time travel shenanigans and altered all of history to this more darker future we're basically getting, and somehow found a way to make a version of Palpatine that did get to the world between worlds by killing Ezra and whatnot and Ahsoka, and is now learning the truth of what Snoke got there and trapped him there and only kept him there until he was no longer around, so Emperor Palpatine could finish what Snoke started and basically finish off the universe, which will lead to Kylo Ren and Rey having to team up and fight him in the world between worlds and revealing alternate timelines and the multiverse theory. Like, it isn't that hard to make multiple different canons. Like, you see DC Comics, you see Marvel do it. Why not do it with Star Wars at this point? So, yeah. Like, the other theory is that maybe it's the observatories that were introduced in the Chuck Wendig's Aftermath trilogy, which explore the idea that Palpatine had observatories filled with powerful, dangerous Sith artifacts and Force artifacts across the galaxy, which could be a case. But yeah, the idea of Palpatine coming back, it's like, okay, in Legends, I could see a storyline that they were going to go with, but then George Lucas says no, and then they said, okay, then can we do this? And then he's like, okay. But then when Disney does it, I'm like, are you doing this for storytelling purposes, or is it because he's a popular name? We lost Carrie Fisher, we lost Luke, we lost Han. We have to have someone popular. Bring him back. So, yeah. And then there's the name of The Rise of Skywalker. This has been debated a little bit. Either this is hinting a return of the Skywalker family, which it wouldn't work unless you want to retcon Rey, because all the Skywalkers, besides Leia, but most likely will be in this film, are dead. And while Kylo Ren is somewhat of a Skywalker, he's a Solo at first. So, yeah, this would probably be the end of the Skywalker lineage. In fact, it ended with the death of Carrie Fisher, so they're clearly going to kill her off in Episode 9 because there's nothing else they can do now. And then you have to also consider this idea. What if the Rise of Skywalker is supposed to signify a new religion of the Force? Not the Jedi, not the Sith. There's the Skywalker religion, which could be perceived as both interesting as an idea, yet extremely dangerous if you're going to have the teachings of Skywalker get involved in this. And knowing how that ended up, that's probably not going to end pretty well. Also, out of pure curiosity, I was really hoping we would get a hopeful Ahsoka moment in this trailer, or even in the film, because, like I said, that's the one thing that makes me want to watch this movie more so, is if Ahsoka's in it, and there's a way you can bring her to this point in time, because of her connection with the daughter that might have slowed her aging process down. Like, she still ages, but it's much more slower now because of her basically semi-immortality. But yeah, this is the end of an era for the Skywalker saga. I probably should have, like, a lot of people were even advocating that George Lucas comes back to direct this, because really this was his baby, and to see Disney take two of the films and bastardize it to an extent, it was concerning. Like, I always felt like this should kind of end on George Lucas's terms. Because this was his baby. He always comes to visit them, even after the divorce that happened. And he always tries to help out in some way. And I'm pretty sure Disney doesn't like that to an extent, because it feels like, well, I'm the father now. I'm raising the kid. Get out of here. But George is like, no, he was my son. I want to look after him. I still believe I can raise him a little bit. And yeah. But yeah, the Rise of Skywalker, like I said, that could indicate a pseudo-cult religious ideology, which would be probably a bad idea. And Palpatine's return, it could give way to a Star Wars multiverse theory, especially with the world between worlds now established in the Star Wars universe. J.J. Abrams' fascination with multiverse storylines, especially with Star Trek, after establishing that, yes, the J.J. Abrams timeline is not the same. It is not rebooted the franchise. It's just an alternative timeline from the original timeline that we all grew up with Star Trek. To say, okay, and that also brings up this. Star Trek, the rebooted series, coexists with the original series because there's Star Trek Discovery. They're going to make another Patrick Stewart, John Picard series after that takes place after the events of Star Trek. I'm trying to remember the name. Star Trek, not Insurrection. That was yeah, it was the last Star Trek movie before the reboot happened. I'll just say that. So yeah, they could do all that, and yeah, and especially with the return of the Legends comic Star Wars Marvel, with issue 108, I believe it's called, coming out soon, and everyone's hyped about that because this might help raise awareness to the Legends movement that people want to see again. Like, I keep saying this. just make it a separate timeline. Just have a label saying Legends, then have another label saying Disney Canon, or have it be called Star Wars Universe, then you got Star Wars Legends, and if you want to make more universes, just put different labels on it. You know, like DC Earth 1, DC Universe, then you got the Watchmen Universe, DC Black Label, then you got all these other DC multiverse, and then you got all the Marvel multiverse, so why can't Star Wars have, like, 2 timelines? Yeah, that still bugs me. So really, I'm just hoping, and it was even said that J.J. Abrams changed the ending of this film during filming, so no idea how this is all going to end. This is just my hopeful prediction. My pessimistic prediction is that we're all going to be miserable at the end of it in the universe of Star Wars, because, you know, misery equals great storytelling without actual emotional payoff. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker teaser trailer. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate. Stay tuned for more.